licensed professional clinical mental health counselor with a supervision endorsement, and she is a board-certified telehealth provider. Yiannoula has worked in private practice, specializing in counseling for depression and anxiety for 4 years. She served as president of the Ohio Association for Specialists in Group Work chapter of the Ohio Counseling Association twice, presented at the All-Ohio Counseling Association Conference, AOCC, 3 times, and served on the proposal committee for the AOCC for several years. Yiannoula founded her own private practice, Resilient Wellness, in 2021 after working with a high-risk population for 4 years. She leads speaking engagements in different communities throughout Ohio, advocating for mental health, and also mentors counselors in training through her supervision license. Let's welcome Yiannoula.
Hello everyone, can everyone hear me? Yeah? Okay, good. I'm a little quiet, so if you can't, give me a signal. My name's Yiannoula. It's so nice to meet everyone. I graduated from AOA in 2012, so that's 10 years ago. I'm excited to be back and talk to you guys a little bit about mental health and self-care and what that looks like. So what do you guys typically think of when the word mental health comes to mind? Is it something that you talk about like with friends, families? Do you feel like it's stigmatized in the picture? Is it just really early? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so as a wonderful introduction, I'll tell you a little bit about me. I'm a counselor, I'm a therapist. I've worked with high-risk populations, I've worked with low-risk populations. I've seen a little bit of everything. The one thing that really inspired me to open my own practice was for about 4 years there, I was working with a more severe population, IOPs, as a coordinator at another private practice. What an IOP is it's intensive outpatient therapy. So this is typically like adolescents or adults that were just hospitalized or struggling with anxiety, like panic attacks on a day-to-day basis, self-harm, things that are just really interfering with their day-to-day function. The one thing I noticed was people would wait until the very last minute to go get support when they felt like they were at their breaking point and they would wind up at the ER. There wasn't really any type of practices or accessibilities for adolescents or just everyday people that made it feel more normalized. When I was in graduate school, along with my peers and family and friends, I saw my brother go through law school, came out with a law degree, but also struggled with depression. I saw my cousin become a pharmacist, get the degree, pass the licensing board, also really struggled with anxiety at the end. One thing that kept becoming apparent was students felt like there was nowhere to get help. These days we have telehealth, which is incredible. You guys have a lot of resources at your school, your teachers, your friends, family, that can help connect you with a therapist. But the one thing I did notice, like I said over and over again, was you didn't want to get help. I've even been in that situation myself where I was struggling in graduate school. I was doing 80 hours a week, I had a GA, I had classes, assignments, so much going on, but there was nowhere to get help. So I created a practice that was very normalized, super accessible, telehealth, everything was done online, that approached people that felt like they couldn't really find a good counselor or space for counseling. So one thing I wanted to talk to you guys was how to recognize when you feel like you need help. If you feel like, you know, every day is getting harder, it doesn't necessarily have to be the severity of I'm having self-harm thoughts, but I'm just having panic attacks. I feel like I'm taking a test and I got a C or a grade I'm not happy with, maybe it was a B, and you're breaking down crying. That's a perfect opportunity to go talk to a therapist, get support, learn what exactly is happening that's making it difficult for you to pass the test after you've studied so many hours, or what's getting in the way of showing up to class. What's going on personally in your life that's stopping you? This might look like learning specific coping tools, it might look like processing, it's different from person to person and session to session. But the important thing is there is places like Resilient Wellness that are accessible to get that type of support where it feels accessible, where it feels like there's a place you can go to that's a little less than the stereotype. A lot of times when I see teenagers come into my office for the first time, when they've been discharged from the hospital or just having a rough day and their parents sign them up for counseling, I felt like it was going to be like Freud, I'm going to be sitting on a couch, it's going to be super awkward. It is not like that at all. Sometimes the first session is literally just getting to know you. Tell me about the important people in your life. Who are your friends? What do you do on a day-to-day basis? It doesn't have to feel like something scary. It doesn't have to involve a homework assignment every session. It's just a place for you to get that support. The one analogy I use when I go and give these talks to different communities and so forth, especially the teenagers, is go to therapy earlier in life. Find accessibility, find someone that you like that you can go back to throughout life, that you feel like you connect with. If you're able to go get help early in life for something as small as, I just feel like I'm struggling with test anxiety, you're going to be way better off later in life when bigger things happen. If you're going through a breakup and you feel like you're just having a hard time getting through it, perfect opportunity, go talk to a therapist. They're a trusted adult, they're not going to tell your parents what's going on, unless it's a safety concern, and even at that point, they'll have a conversation with you about what does breaking confidentiality look like. If you are struggling to pay for college or even a major, that's a perfect opportunity to go talk to a therapist. They're going to help you go through options, maybe even do like some assessments, figure out what do you want to do. Anywhere in life, if you are walking into a store and you can't find a pair of jeans that fit you, you ask somebody for help. If you've got a toothache, you go to the dentist. Mental health should not be different from that. If you feel like you're struggling, if you feel like you're just having a hard time and might be considering it, talk to a therapist. There's nothing wrong with it. I know I sound like a broken record, but if anything, that's what I want you to take from this talk today, is go see a therapist at some point in life. College campuses, they usually offer free counseling services to students, so your freshman year, if you're transitioning for the first time being away from home, perfect opportunity, go have some support. As some of you that live on campus know, there's going to be moments you probably are not going to get along with your roommate. That's part of life, it's okay. Doesn't mean you're a bad person, doesn't mean they're a bad person. It just means you're learning to live with somebody else. If it's being away for the first time and you're just homesick, go talk to a therapist. You'll learn coping skills, so forth. It can be something short-term, it can be something long-term. I've had parents come in and bring their teenagers, and it's just, I want my kiddo to have a trusted adult to talk to once a month about school stuff, friend stuff, just get some guided support. Does anyone have any questions about like therapy or myths, things like that I can answer? Because I know there's like a lot of stereotypes associated with it.
What criteria do you use to differentiate someone that's having a rough time and someone who is depressed? Like what would they say to you that would lead you one way or another?
Yeah, so we're trained where we have the clinical assessments, clinical interviewing, where we can look for things that you can look within, like your peers or students, is if someone's more extroverted and they start isolating, they're spending less time away from friends, that might look like it. Just low self-esteem. Again, constantly like having breakdowns, feeling very on edge, getting angry, having outbursts at your friends. You're not just irritable, that's probably a sign of anxiety, you just don't know how to recognize it. Because unfortunately, we're not taught these signs in society of how do I recognize when I'm feeling anxious, when it's becoming, like you said, something more than just day-to-day stress. And even that's okay if you want to check in month to month, so forth with someone, to just process those things and learn specific coping skills. So,
You don't say therapy doesn't work like help everyone. What's your thoughts on that?
yeah. So there is a ton of different theoretical orientations, ones that are different, more specific for certain people and different diagnoses and symptoms. I will say one thing I've heard from a lot of people, even my friends and family, is they'll look at like certain therapists, like you said, and it's just not their fit. I use the example a lot that it's kind of like shoe shopping. I love shoes. Where you try it on, it looks really cute, not quite the right fit, you go for a different type. Same thing is with a therapist. It's job interviews. It's back and forth. You can do a free 15-minute consultation with someone. I offer that. There's other practices that do as well to see if I'm the right fit for you. You can ask some specific questions of like, what is the session like? Because again, some people like homework, some people prefer more talk therapy. That person might also just not be the right fit for you, because it does come down to personality sometimes, if it's going to click or not. I encourage people usually, if that's not the right fit, shop around, go to someone else. You can completely ghost that person if you want. They'll probably send you a couple follow-up emails. Or you can let them know they're just not the right fit, and they'll probably give you referrals to somewhere else or give you an idea of what they're looking for. Like I said, I work with a lot of young professionals. That's more my niche. Adolescents do. I have a lot of training in. There's other therapists that are a little bit more, I don't want to say hippie, but like hippie. I'm a little bit more peppy. It's just kind of like your feel and so forth. There's directories like Good Therapy, Psychology Today that myself or one of your lovely teachers or staff can help you get connected with, where you can literally look at a video, a profile, and just see, is this the right person for me? What are the sections like? What's their personality like? Because just like you're not going to be friends with everybody, you might not find the right person on the right fit, and that's okay. You can change therapists at any time either if you feel like you're not getting what you need out of it. Or just tell them. You're never going to offend me. You're never going to offend your therapist if you tell them, I don't feel like I'm getting anything out of this, or I just don't think you're the right fit for me.
What would you say to students in the room who are considering a career in mental health care?
Yeah, I would say definitely go for it. It's a calling. I love it. It's definitely not an easy field to be in. We have a huge emphasis on self-care, and that can look like obviously taking a lavish vacation. That's always good too, again. But also just getting like a cup of coffee in the morning with a friend, little things like that. There's a lot of different ways you can go about getting like your license in different ways. I went through the master's way. Like I said, I did a 3-year program in 2 years, which I don't recommend. That's where I found myself feeling really stressed out. But I was in graduate school. I had a GA, which was funded. I was working for the school. I didn't really have any time or place or ability in my schedule to get a commute to go to a therapist. And that's where I created Resilient Wellness so that people, other young professionals that are struggling in law school, pharmacy, counseling, can go get access to that, because school's going to be hard. Things are going to come up in life. I've had people even just come in getting married, the most exciting part of their life, and they feel nervous about the identity change, get support. So I would say just be open to being a client as well as being a therapist, because you'll learn a lot about yourself. It's the best gift you can give you. But it's definitely a very rewarding field. There's a ton of different things you can do within that field. Whether it's specializing, professional development. I know earlier they mentioned I do a lot of stuff with the state conferences and on the state level of advocacy. There's like forensic work, you can go into court. There's so many different avenues that you never get bored.
So therapy can be kind of costly. What would you say to people that can't afford that?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different routes. Usually a lot of people think like insurance is the best way to go. And insurance is great if you have a good plan. If you do not take insurance, or your provider that might not, like I'm private pay. So what I do is I offer a sliding scale, and that's just a discounted rate so that you don't have to meet a deductible, you don't have those necessary obstacles. And I'm also big on like resource and tools. So if you're someone that says, I'm cool with handouts, I love them, typically what I do is I give you like a ton of resources after session of things we talked about. I'll literally bombard you with emails with things just so that you have more than that. And I usually tell people like make a binder, keep it all in place. You're literally gonna come back to this later. When I say resources and homework, I know you guys are probably like, oh my gosh, no. It's usually fun stuff. Like sometimes it's go to Home Goods, get like a self-soothing box, a weighted blanket. Let's talk about fun things you can put in there, snacks. Sometimes it's literally like, let's do a worksheet together to challenge thoughts. It's like a range of different things. It's make a playlist of like good music. One misconception like people have typically is if you're feeling depressed, listen to depressed music. That actually does the opposite of making you feel better. It validates and reinforces how you feel. It's not actually changing your mood. You're supposed to listen to something super peppy and annoying. But there is options. So I would say whether it's a directory or your insurance, you can even ask, do you take a sliding scale? A lot of people just don't know about it and aren't aware of it. And a therapist will typically work with you to find a more affordable rate or refer you to a colleague that they know can. Because it does get costly sometimes and so forth, but. Any other questions, myths, things about therapy, counseling? We do say, like, how does that make you feel from time to time? So that part's true. One thing I used to tell kiddos is when I ran the IOP group, it's not as depressing as people make it look in the movies. Because if you were to sit around in like a basement room and talk about how you feel and it, like no one would go to that. I wouldn't want to go to that. That like would be depressing for me. So it does not look like that. It's more like, I don't want to say talking with your best friend in a professional relationship, but it's a trusted person you get to know. I always tell adults the best thing is when you go, you're selfish, you complain about whatever, your husband, your friends, never leaves the room, your parents, for an hour. So it really is a gift you give yourself that you keep growing. And like I said, if you recognize early in life that you want to go just to check in or need some help with school stuff or whatever that reason might be, that you tell mom and dad and maybe it's bigger stuff going on, you're going to know it works. You're going to find a person that you either trust and you go back to later in life, or try a different therapist later, but you know it was effective. You've got that support that you can go back to. The biggest thing is in life, recognizing when you feel like you need help. Because if you're able to recognize that early on, you're not going to get to that point where you feel like you're at your breaking point. There's no point like to suffer purposely. Any other questions, things about the field, counseling, self-care? What do we do for self-care here? Like, what do you guys do for fun? When you're having a bad day, do you engage in self-care? Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of head nodding. Okay, maybe let's change that. What are some things that would be practical for you to do on a day-to-day basis? Okay, yeah, sleep. Oversleeping, though, can also be like a sign of depression. One, you're teenagers, so take that with a grain of salt. But if you're just sleeping to escape the day all the time, chances are something bigger is going on. But making sure you get enough sleep is also going to help recharge you. If you think of yourself as a battery, you're not getting enough sleep, you're not going to function. Just like your thumb, it's going to die sooner. I think I saw a hand back there.
I paint myself with watercolors.
I don't care for that one.
Watercolors.
Oh yeah, painting work. That's a good one. Art. That's even like mindfulness, which is really, really good for you. Yeah. Exercising. It could just be little things you find yourself doing on a day-to-day basis. Like I said, create your self-soothing box of like things you like to do, whether it's a book or just like all your favorite stuff in a corner. It can be calling a friend in between studying or lighting a candle while you study. Little things like that might not feel like it makes a difference, but it is. And it's also having good boundaries. Okay. Any other questions, things? No? Well, if you ever need any support, resources, questions, I do offer like mentorship for students that want to become therapists. I am happy to coordinate you with services, whether it's me or someone else, so forth. And like I said, give it a try, even if you're considering it wherever you're at in life. You can only benefit from it. Your parents aren't going to find out what you're talking about unless it's a safety concern. You can even have specific questions that I've answered a million times in the first session of like, what would you exactly tell my parents? And it's literally like nothing, unless it's a safety concern, and so forth at that point. So that might make you feel more comfortable, but I strongly encourage you, even consider it for self-care if you feel like you're struggling, you don't know what major you want to go to, what college, so forth. Well, it was nice meeting you all today. Good luck with everything. Yeah, hopefully you'll be back here. Thank you.